Show me your war kitty. Meow! What's going on, guys? We're back on Warhammer 2, where the Tomb King has got a bone to pick with the tree huggers of the Wildwood. A weird build for the undead, not gonna lie. I don't think you guys have seen these ones on my channel for almost a year, maybe longer. Sepulchral Stalkers. They're not bad, they're just disappointing. Waystalker will be lining up some brutally accurate shots towards the ground at his feet. Really not sure what he's shooting at. And the Winterheart Guard, Unbreakable Spearmen, under a Withering Salvo of Ushabti fire. They're gonna have their work cut out for them in this one. Wardens of Sithral Rangers on the prowl as well. It's construct hunting season for them, and Sisters of the Thorn out wide with their freaky little deer from hell. Those are the builds. I am playing the Tomb Kings, Shetland Apache is playing the Wood Elves, and this was a really weird battle. So, the Eyes in the Desert, Vanguard deployed in the center. They've got stalks, so they can be pretty sneaky, and they have charge defense against large. Poison, AP, and a healthy dosage of bonus versus large. So they're a hybrid unit with a surprising amount of utility, but they're also very squishy for a construct. We'll see how they do. 25% missile resist will certainly help them when they're under fire from all those Starfire shafts, or from the Waystalker himself. And there are also a couple more Vanguard deploying shenanigans out on the flanks, Tomb Scorpions, and some Skeleton Horsemen. Archer variant on both sides. We've got 4 of those to do some skirmishing, and the Tomb Scorpions are always a good pick. I mean, for 1,000 gold, the terror, the mobility, the ability to pretty much squeegee their way out of damage, and that low hitbox, that low profile, just gives them so much utility when you're dealing with really any faction, but especially one that's heavy on missile play. Got a Liger Zero here in the back, straight out of Zoid's Khemrian Warsphinx. Wondering how many of you guys watched that show when you were growing up. It's been a while since I've seen it, but Zoids was pretty fun back in the day. Those and Beyblades were always nice to watch. Khemrian Warsphinx is going to be a beast for sure. And over on the Wood Elf side of things, a lot of Azrai Spearmen, a lot of Eternal Guard, some Starfire Shafts, those flaming arrows with AP. They're going to do some damage for sure when you're talking about a Khemrian Warsphinx. It does have some missile resist, but it can take some damage from that for sure. A Waystalker out front, Vanguard deployed, do some skirmishing early. And the Wardens of Sithral, of course, those bonus versus large, especially when they're fighting in the woods. They are a terrifying unit. They can mess up constructs for days. Sisters of Thorn, Curse of Anrahir, and Shield of Thorns, 2 very powerful bounce spells, and that 40% physical resist, alongside their mobility. Pretty tough to deal with for the Tomb King. So, as this battle gets underway, a little bit of poking and prodding, and honestly, looking back on it, probably should not have Vanguard deployed that much in the front and in the middle, because even if my Sepulchral Stalkers had been on top of some Waywatcher groups in the middle there, they would have just gotten shredded by armor-piercing volleys anyway. I mean, 25% missile resist only goes so far when you've got that small HP pool. Weird thing from Shetland Apache here, he actually went for Arrows of Kurnus on both his Glade Lord and his Waystalker. That is a spell that was amazing in Warhammer 1, and honestly, the bounce spell has been pretty nerfed heavily in Game 2. It's not very good anymore, but did some decent chunks of damage there to the Tomb Scorpion. And over here, Curse of Anrahir going to ambush my Skeleton Horsemen Archers as Sisters of Thorn come out of the woods, and they are on the hunt. And look at how slow they're moving. Poison from the Hagbane tips and from the Sisters of Thorn javelins, and that Curse of Anrahir means they're moving at a tiny speed. And race cars, the deer from hell are going to come in from behind and rip those Skeleton Horsemen up. So not a great start to the battle. They're going to get pretty much run over, at least in terms of this one unit here, take a ton of damage. Doing some damage back, 40% physical resist is amazing, but you're still going to take some losses when you talk about all that Skeleton Horseman Archer fire coming in from point blank range. But yeah, that's definitely a good trade for Shetland Apache, and Tomb Scorpion will have to move up to push them back, and then that will make him more of a target for the Glade Lord and for the Waystalker. So you might notice in this battle, I do not have a caster. I have never truly subscribed to the idea that you absolutely must, no matter what, have a caster, because that's boring. I'll never fall in line. I'll never become another victim of your conformity. So yes, typically, you will generate more value out of a caster than other alternatives, and yes, competitively speaking, you generally should bring one, but sometimes it screws with your build, man. Sometimes you'd rather bring something else, something that isn't such a squish ball, something you don't have to worry so much about babysitting. So we've skipped it this battle in favor of those Eyes in the Desert, and the Tomb Scorpion still trying to push back the Sisters of Thorn, who are really just severely annoying out on the flanks. And I pushed forward a little bit, was thinking about engaging them on the open plain, and then realized I'm not ready to attack yet. we're going to use those trees to our advantage, block some of those shots, and then hopefully that will allow us to close the gap and finish them off. And of course, our Ushabti Great Bows still have much more time to do the damage they want to do. The Great Bows should be firing at those Sisters of the Thorn soon. The Chosen of the Gods should be focusing down the Winterheart Guard and the Wardens of Sithrall. Some good shots coming in. Gonna drop a few of the deer. And the mainline engagement looking like it's brewing. Waystalker firing into the infantry and the Ushabti Great Bow. Chosen of the Gods shredding the left flank of those Winterheart Guard. And that's the only way to take them down, because they will not break. Perfect morale. They will fight to the bitter end. And that means blowing them to pieces is the only way to deal with them. So the Glade Lord is actually on foot, firing through the trees right now. I'd be very surprised if those shots managed to make it through all of those trees. And the Sisters of the Thorn still looking to put some pressure out on the flanks. So the Eternal Guard are closing in. And when I'm looking at how this battle is progressing right now, there are a couple things that stand out. For one, the archers are going to be a big threat, and that kind of makes sense. It's the Wood Elves, right? That's what they do. They shoot you from long range. The Starfire Shafts in particular, huge threat to the Khemrian Warsphinx and the Tomb King because he's weak to fire. And a pretty common tactic for the Tomb Kings is to bring a Lore of Nakara caster with just their first two spells. Nero's Incantation of Protection and Jaff's Incantation of Cursed Blades. And the reason you do that is because both those spells are so low cooldown and so cheap in terms of Winds of Magic that you can kind of spam those spells over and over again and get a lot of your frontline infantry pretty much near the healing cap once you've cast a lot of those spells. And in fact, Jaff's Incantation of Cursed Blades, Overcast, only 5 Winds of Magic, gives plus 16 bonus for Large as well. So you can give stuff like Chariots, you can give stuff like Nakara Horsemen, or even Carrion bonus versus Large, which is pretty damn good. So again, we skipped it this battle. We'll see how that play works out. Over here, Skeleton Horsemen doing some skirmishing with the Sisters of the Thorn, who are going forward. Tomb Scorpion right there to absorb their charge and take out a few of their number, or tried to, actually just dug under everything. I don't even think he killed a model. Did some damage there though, and Starfire Shafts moving in range of the Ushabti Great Bows. They will need to retreat because there's no reason for them to trade those shots. They have more than enough range to shoot from outside the arc of fire of those Glade Guard. Here, Skeleton Spearmen and Swordsmen fighting out with the Eternal Guard front line, and the War Kitty bounds into battle. So hype. God, I love seeing that animation. That charge is one of the most brutal and devastating animations in the game, because you see how that animation starts really far away and he bounds through and does like 15, 20 full steps. Each one of those is an attack. So he can get like a full attack off and take an entire infantry unit down to half strength off a single charge if he comes in from the flank. But Prey of Anathrema went down. Missile resist lowered on the Tomb King, and the Sepulchral Stalkers, the Eyes in the Desert, getting a nice rear charge into the back of those Eternal Guard. So the Khemrian Warsphinx is starting to inundate the back line and put some pressure back there alongside some Skeleton Horsemen. The Eyes in the Desert finishing off their rear charge and now going into the Glade Guard and the flanks of the Winterheart Guard as well. Now they won't want to stick around in that fight for too long, but a rear charge, well actually, that's probably the worst target on the battlefield for them to go into because they are unbreakable. Normally, rear charge, pretty good, but can't manipulate their morale because they will not rout. Another Arrow of Kurnus, continuing to whittle down the Tomb Scorpion. That one is why that spell kind of sucks. It just kind of went right over the top, but still doing some good damage to it. And the Ushabti have been summoned in the back line on top of those Starfire Shafts. Really don't want them firing into the Tomb King, because the Warsphinx is kind of the whole linchpin of this build. It's really a ton of my DPS. Them and the Tomb Scorpion are really going to be the make or break units for the Tomb Kings here. Now, the Tomb Scorpion, a little bit too far forward. He did have some infantry support, but I believe those Skeleton Spearmen crumbled, so he will retreat behind the safety of another rank of them. Swordsman moving up to help him out, and we've got the Khemrian Warsphinx dropping that plus 16 leadership bastion to help keep his guys in the fight. Awakening in the Wood going down in the middle of that fight, and the Tomb Scorpion got too far out. Kind of lost track of him, chasing down some Glade Guard. He'll need to come back, but too far away right now. Now the Ushabti are starting to turn their attention, their gaze, their malevolent vision towards the Sisters of the Thorn, and they're getting shredded apart now, and they're pretty much on their last legs. They might get a couple more melee attacks in here or there. Tomb Scorpion might be in range to shut them down, and the Sepulchral Stalkers were unleashing their poisonous missile attack from the flank. Again, another piece of utility. Makes them a very decent choice. Again, I think that they're a lot better than the normal Sepulchral Stalkers because they actually have stock. They can move around the battlefield hidden, which is just so important. But yeah, they're making an impact here for sure. Not a massive amount of kills, but they've definitely done some nice stuff for me so far, and they're taking the brunt of these Starfire shafts right now. Khemrian Warsphinx down to half HP, and when that happens, his Scorpion armor kicks in, and he gets a constant 22% ward save, which is going to be invaluable. That's not physical resist. That is a straight ward save. So all incoming damage, including the Starfire shafts and their fire damage, will be mitigated by 22%. That's huge because he's weak to fire. It kind of counteracts all that arrow fire that might be coming in his way. Tomb Scorpion and the infantry fighting it out right now, and a lot of focus fire going the way of the Tomb King as that Prey of Anathema goes down, lowering his missile resist. The Sepulchral Stalkers chasing after the Sisters of the Thorn, zoning them out. They also probably getting a little bit too far away from the important engagements. They're going to notice it and come back, and I believe go after the Glade Guard. Now, the Khemrian Warsphinx is poisoned by Hagbane tips at the moment, moving incredibly slowly, and so his charge animation is not going off, and that was very painful to watch, because, like, I need them gone. They hurt me too bad to allow them to continue firing, even with those low model counts, but took a while to close the gap there. Finally did, and they'll probably tear a route. Over here should be a fear route pretty soon for these Glade Guard, but the Sepulchral Stalkers are getting completely surrounded now, and they're on their last legs as well. Only slivers of HP left, and it's going to be a very important duel here. Looks like the Sisters of Thorn might actually win it. So the Eyes in the Desert, I don't know if they really paid for themselves in this battle. I wasn't incredibly impressed with how they did, but honestly, there just weren't a lot of targets for them to kill. They are supposed to excel against stuff like Wild Riders and Treekin and Treemen, and there were almost no large targets on the field. It was just two Sisters of the Thorn, which kind of makes them a useless investment in that situation. So they did a little bit for me in terms of rear charging and stuff, which was nice, but overall couldn't pay for themselves. But I'm not sure if that's so much the unit as it was just the situation that arose. This battle is super far from over, though. Khemrian Warsphinx is a terror in the night, and the Wood Elves are having a serious trouble shutting that thing down. I mean, Prey of Anathema certainly helped. Melkoth's Mystifying Miasma will also prevent him from moving very quickly and maybe allow those Starfire shafts to get some more good shots in. And you can see his HP is definitely dropping, but when you got that blob around a Tomb King like that, the curse can go off, and then it can nuke everything around it into oblivion. Scorpion getting in there, Constructs going to work, and the Chosen of the Gods and the regular Ushabti Grapos in there, and the Arachnid about to unleash that brutal tail and pin a Glade Guard in place and take him for a ride, a hellish ride that I would want no part of, and he will find a new home under the ground, and we probably won't see him again. He's definitely not going to be in Warhammer 3. Khemrian Warsphinx looking to kill some Wardens of Sithrall. They've been depleted heavily, and one thing you might have noticed this game, they actually deployed near the, well, they didn't deploy near the woods. They charged forward to get into the woods because they get that extra bonus for large there. I purposely avoided fighting with any of my large units in that engagement, except for maybe I think my Tomb Scorpion might have been there for a little bit, but that was completely intentional. If you fight Wardens of Sithrall in any kind of grove, any kind of copse, any kind of wooded area, you're gonna be in for a really bad time. So definitely avoid that if you see your opponent doing it. They'll hurt you pretty bad. Khemrian Warsphinx is still just causing so much havoc in the Wood Elf line, just bowling them over and over again. And finally, he will collapse. The Construct will go down. Leo the Lion is out, and the Zoids will lose. Constructs out of the fight now. Wood Elves take the field. Shetland Apache will win. So, I talked a little bit about the whole casting situation. I've never been a min-maxer, as you guys well know. Occasionally, I just want to bring something that I'll have more fun with. This was undoubtedly a battle where a caster would have done me a whole hell of a lot of good. A Lore of Nagakara caster with Nero's Incantation of Protection for my Tomb King and the Khemrian Warsphinx, that War Kitty with 40% extra physical resist, would have helped him out tremendously. Jaff's Incantation of Cursed Blades would have also been useful. You spam those two spells back to back to back, and you can get a lot of those skeleton frontline units up to near the healing cap and really help them sustain much longer than they would normally be able to. It was unfortunate, though, The Sepulchral Stalker, I don't think it was a bad pick here at all. If there had been Wild Riders on the field, would have actually probably been very useful. Unfortunately, he had 2 large units on the field, and they were both Sisters of the Thorn, which only go into melee near the end once they've used all their ammunition. And so, at that point, it was kind of like, you haven't generated much value out for me. That sucks, but that was just a function of the build that Shetland Apache brought, rather than the unit being bad in and of itself. I think there are probably still better choices for the Tomb Kings, but it's definitely not bad there. Tomb Scorpion, one of them not used that well. 7 kills, not amazing. Other one did pretty well for me. I mean, I got some terror routes and stuff for sure. The Skeleton Horsemen had a lot of trouble. They had their hands full dealing with the Sisters of the Thorn, but honestly, that's a trade that's fine. The Sisters of Thorn are, I think, 1,100 gold, and I think Skeleton Horsemen Archers are 550, so they're literally half the price. So if they kind of trade there, and you look at the kills, I mean, it's pretty even, so I don't think Sisters of the Thorn ran over me in any way, shape, or form. So the missile skirmish fight on the flanks was fine. Ultimately, it came down to really good picks from those Starfire Shafts, who did a lot of damage to my War Kitty, and some great play in terms of spreading the field. Some good skirmishing from the Waystalker and the Glade Lord. Arrows of Kernus, interesting pick that you don't see too often. Pretty fun to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next time. Peace out.